It's risky, but it's paid off in all of my speeches. And don't worry, it's calculated risk. What I'm talking about here is humor. This is how I have used humor successively, to help me speak in front of 2,000 people on numerous occasions, win public speaking competitions, and receive standing ovations. I know, I'm joking. But humor is risky. And why I say that is because oftentimes we don't know if it's going to land. We don't know if they'll get our reference. We don't know if they're guaranteed to laugh. We don't know what's going to happen here. Is this too edgy? Is it cringe? Is it, will they even get it? Okay. And I view humor as a way to connect to our audience because it immediately establishes, I want to say, not rapport, but it kind of identifies us as human. If we can make them laugh, they kind of, recline in their seats a bit more, and they say, okay, yep, this guy's human, this guy's chill, okay, he's funny, all right. And secondly, what else humor does is it contrasts our competence with warmth. And what I mean by that is, obviously, when we say a speech, we walk in with our leather bag in our hand, the briefcase, and we look smart. We have a tie on, a collar on. We're feeling good. We're looking like $1,000,000. Okay, we're quite competent in that situation. We stand there all formal. We're speaking. We're using eloquent words and diction, and we have a PowerPoint on, and it's very formal, right? And we're speaking and blah blah blah. We're very competent at what we're talking about. We're not talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We're talking about presentations and stocks and driving shareholder capital, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We're talking about serious stuff. We're dressed seriously. There's a serious room of people. We're more on the competent side. When we can contrast that competence with warmth, warmth plus competence equals charisma and charm and natural eloquence. So when we can contrast those two, we just come across as, whoa, this guy or girl is actually pretty good. They come across as good speakers. They seem to know what they're talking about. They're laughing and smiling. They're pretty comfortable with the situation. They just seem naturally quite confident. That's what we're going for here. And that is what humor does. And so in this video, I'm just going to tell you how we create humor. There's 2 techniques and a bonus I'll give you here. And let's just begin, okay? So there's a technique, don't worry. There's a technique here called milk cans, and baseballs. And what that is, I got it from Matthew Dix in his book Storyworthy. He's a master storyteller, and I've learned a lot from just watching YouTube videos on him, listening to his stories, and reading his book. Please read it, you'll learn a lot from it. But if you don't have time for that, I've made my own storytelling cheat sheet, which is free, link in description. Check it out because it can save you lots of time, and I've put a lot of time into it. So let me know how it is. Okay, if you don't want it though, that's fine, but it's free. Check it out, please, in brackets. What milk cans and a baseball is firstly, we have to understand that humor is derived, it comes from the unexpected. So what we're doing is we're kind of essentially saving the funny part, save funny for final, save it for the end, okay? Not the semi-final, not the quarterfinal, not the playoffs, the qualifiers. Use the funny shit for the end of the speech, okay? For the finals, when it matters most. So I have a few examples here, my own personal stories. So there's a story where I'm watching football with my dad, and it's an entertaining match, and our 2 teams are tying, and it's the last minute. We have a chance to score. And so we go and we're up and we kick the ball in the air, and it's flying, and yes, we're about to score. Our TV freezes. And we jump up and like, what the heck happened? But that's the funny part, okay? It freezes. But I say that for the end. I build up the whole story, the whole joke. That comes at the end. I had this other story where it's on Valentine's Day. I'm a cute little kid in primary school. I'm going to go to school and ask this girl I like to be my Valentine. But before, in my head, I have this plan on how it's going to play out, and I ask at the end of the day. But then midday, we have to get dressed for PE, physical education, recess, whatever you guys call it in America. And we get dressed into our sports clothes, and the sun is shining in her, it's lighting up her eyes. There's this little strand of hair on her forehead. She's looking cute, and she has this gap in between her teeth. So that's the humor here. So she's cute, she's this and that, it's amazing. Gap between her teeth. And then she looks at me and she says, Luca, you're kind of fat. Humor, unexpected. It builds up to that. Does that make sense? So there's another example, I'm pretty sure, Matthew Dix's example. Saved by Jehovah's Witnesses, pantry, tiny bedroom, Rick, indoor pet goat. Does that make sense? So in his story or whatever, he would have had all these things. This saved by these Jehovah's Witnesses, this random characteristic of their pantry, the tiny apartment they're in, and there's an indoor pet goat. So that's what we're going for here. We kind of set up all the milk cans, right? We're setting these things up. Jehovah's Witnesses, the pantry, the tiny apartment, and then we come with a baseball and we knock it down. Boom. So we have this cute girl, the sun's shining, lighting up her eyes. She's looking at me. This is the moment. The cute little strand of hair there, this tiny little gap between her teeth. It's cute though. Luca, you're kind of fat. The soccer match, the ball in the air, the tension, the two teams playing, the final, whatever, TV freezes. So that's what we're going for here, okay? We set it all up, these milk cans, and then we poof, break it all down with the baseball. That's pretty funny. That's how humor is created in a nutshell. Number 2. What do we call it again? This is again from Matthew Dix. Luca, you're just nitpicking his stuff. Yeah, I basically am. Babies and blenders. What in the world could that possibly mean? What I mean by that is we want to use words that have, to an extent, no right being next to each other, or at least that aren't commonly associated with one another. So, hey guys, how was your weekend? Okay, let me first explain this though. So, words not expected to be together. Hope you can read that. Together. And what I mean by that, so hey guys, how was your weekend? Mine was actually pretty nice. I was with my little baby brother. He's cute, he's squishy, but man, is he an asshole. So we have cute. How do you spell cute? Oops, ignore the fact that I try to spell cute with a Q. It could just be QT. He's a cutie. Okay, whatever. He's cute, squishy, asshole. Okay. Matthew Dix is a very good example. When it comes to food, my sweet, angelic 3-year-old boy is a little asshole. Once again, this further reinforces the idea that humor is largely based off of the element of surprise. And when the audience least expects it, they're most susceptible to laughter. So that's what we're going for here. Not QT. We're using the words not expected to be together, like babies and blenders, I'd hope. So what's another example we can think of here? Oh yeah. So what's kind of funny is I was buying scrubs I need to go to medical clinic. I'm a student. I need to go to the clinic. So I'm getting scrubs in this shop. And I'm trying some things on and everything's okay. And then at the corner of the shop, I see these nice scrubs with the collar on. I go over to check them out. And whoa, they're expensive. They're double the price of what I was trying on, of what's the regular, normal, acceptable price. Double the price. But the material's cool. They have a collar. They have all this on. But nah, I'm not getting it. The price is double. That's quite unreasonable. But then I put it on. And I was like, yeah, baby, this is for me. It fits well. I kind of messed up the punchline here, but essentially what I was going for was not a chance I'm trying it on. It's double the price. But then I put it on. So would that rather be a milk can and a baseball, or a baby and a blender? It's kind of a hybrid. The concept is the same though. We set it up, we lay the milk cans, and we let the babies out. So we say, here's all this good stuff, here's this and that. But then I put it on. And then I was like, yep, I need this. Okay, so that's the idea here. And what you want to understand as a little bonus tip here, or firstly, I have some practical examples. Ooh, I'm not even aware of my own script here. Now that my big brother is no longer with us. So an example where I used in one of my winning speeches in a competition was I had this story where I was talking about, the topic was greatness comes with great responsibility, the quote by Winston Churchill. And so I had a personal story about my big brother and how much he meant to me. Um, my big brother, this and that, he's cool, he's great. I look up to him as little bro, amazing. And then he moves overseas to go and study abroad. And then I talk about the story of how we're all at the airport and we're saying goodbye, and he leaves without ever looking back. And in that moment, I realized that it was never about letting go, but it was never getting the chance to say goodbye. And now that my big brother is no longer with us, he's very much alive, we just continue to live far apart. I realized that Winston Churchill's quote, greatness comes with great responsibility, is so, so true. Does that make sense there? So what I did was I kind of made it sound like my brother's dead. Now that he's no longer with us, he's very much alive. We just continue to live far apart. Again, we're setting it up with cold. Don't laugh at this. It's not nice. And then, oh, it's actually funny, warm, funny. Okay. So that again comes from the unexpected. Again, here's another example. So I haven't used this, but it's an idea, but you'll kind of get where I'm going at with this. In a speech, imagine you just have a speech and you come up and instead of saying the go-to line, or instead of just saying, hey, good morning, everyone, you say, sure, Luca, here's a speech about 5 minutes long that is certain to impress all the ladies. Good morning, guys. I'm Luca, and today I'll be talking to you about romance, specifically Romeo and Juliet, the play by Shakespeare. So we kind of open it up with a ChatGPT line, which breaks a pattern here. So I said, sure, Luca, here's a 5-minute speech that will make sure to impress all the ladies. That's quite funny. That is unexpected. That breaks patterns. That is where humor, grows from. That kind of soil. That's the ground which we want here. Sure, Luca, because it's unexpected. It's rare. It breaks patterns. That's what we're going for. When I was in the orphanage visiting, I got that from Yasir Khan. That's the idea we're going for here. So when you open the speech and you say, good morning, everyone. When I was in the orphanage visiting, little joke, unexpected humor. When I was in prison, job shadowing a chef or something like that, that's humor, okay? I had another one in my valediction speech. I was talking about how I was going from being under the leadership of one person and then being under the leadership of someone new. So I was saying, transitioning from person A to person B, it was like night and day. It was like moving from South Korea to North Korea. And Mr. Samuels was Kim Jong-un. That immediately created humor because it's kind of rare for someone to call anyone else Kim Jong-un, especially in that setting, in this suit and tie environment, to call another higher up of yours a dictator, Kim Jong-un. It's unexpected, but it is funny. And that it got the whole crowd to laugh, and that was great. I had this other teacher of mine at this valediction speech who was Indian. But him and I had a very, very good relationship. And we had this example once where he was like, hey, Luca, how's this speech of yours coming along? A previous speech in the year. I said, it's going well. I have the meat and potatoes, but I just need to add a little gravy. And he goes, gravy? Why not curry? And the whole crowd laughed. They loved it. I looked over to him and he was laughing. He said it. These were his words. And I was just retelling them, reciting them. This could very well come across as potentially racist. But it's not racist because firstly, him and I have a very good relationship and we know one another. Secondly, the crowd knows me. Thirdly, these weren't even my words to begin with, it was his. So if I'm trying to go with the stereotype Indian curry, but that's not obviously not what we were going for here. That is just very characteristic of his, I want to say, patriotic or nationalist, more patriotic. He's quite a proud Indian man. He likes to listen to, you know, I don't know what the word is, but Indian music. He likes to eat Indian food, and he's open about that. He talks about it in his classes. That's his vibe. And so I was just, using his words to create the joke here. But again, that's quite unexpected. He goes, gravy? Why not curry? So that's where the humor stems from again. That's the ground we're going for here. When we have this unexpected setting, that is where humor grows best. Does that make sense? And now for our bonus tip, which I'm so eager to share with you. As you can tell by the look on my face, blah, blah, blah. Let's get into it. So as our bonus tip, let me make a little boom, like a comic action around that. How's that? It's very, very easy to take a story with a deep realization, a story that moved you, that's somewhat serious, that transformed you, and to add humor to that. But it's very difficult to take a story which is just solely funny and add depth and transformation to that story. Does that make sense? So think of it like this. We can take a horror movie and we can add some humor to it. Okay. It can be funny the way someone dies, the way someone falls, the way they scream. You know that classic Hollywood scream? Rawr, rawr, rawr. I can't do it on command or at all for that matter. But it's very easy to take a scary movie and add some humor to it. But it's pretty hard to add genuine horror to a funny movie like Dumb and Dumber. The same way it's pretty hard to add substance, to add a lesson, to add a lesson worth learning, to add transformation, depth to just a funny story. So what we want to focus on as the bonus tip here is take a story that genuinely moves you, that genuinely transforms you, that has depth, that has substance to it, there's something to it. And you can always add humor to that. You can always use these techniques and we can always make that funnier. But it's very difficult to do the opposite. So that's a little bonus tip. Keep that in mind. That's been the video, and I've been Luca. I hope you got some value from this. What I want you to do here is to understand that this is all just theory. If we really want to get better at the skill of public speaking, we have to be more practical with our improvement here. So when we try and implement these things, just take one of these techniques, whether it's milk cans and baseballs, babies and blenders, or just one different kind of unexpected ground where you can plant your little humor seeds in. Just focus on one thing and implement that each time as you go and speak. Don't try and add everything at once. Just take one little technique, one idea you got, one unexpected area or a vibe or approach you can use to make a joke land a bit better. That's been the video. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you got some value from this. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments or check the link in the description. It's all free. And I hope to see you in the next one. Adios.